this was, of course, during the era of the Vietnam War. Most activism in that period was directed towards stopping the war. As the war wound down, so did the activism. And Marjorie got restless. And the 30th anniversary of the dropping of the bomb on Hiroshima came along. We realized that it was going to be the 30th anniversary in 1945, and Marjorie and I got together, and we were at the Friends meeting, and we decided that Friends meeting should have an observation of that. So we got about 8 people together, and we went over and stood in front of the Federal Building in Medford for an hour of silent vigil. That was the beginning of what was later to become a Peace House sponsored event, which is an annual tradition now, the Hiroshima observation. But we didn't do it on the plaza, we did it over in Medford in front of the Federal Building. Let me move forward now to the late 70s and the early 80s, when the nuclear disarmament movement was particular. That was the focus after the Vietnam War of most activists in the country. After this was the height of the Cold War. And one of the things that was happening here in Ashland was an effort to create a nuclear-free zone in the city, declare the city a nuclear-free zone. The city council was reluctant to do that, but they did put it on the ballot. There was a woman named Susan Lloyd, who was a photographer, who went around, took a lot of photographs of people in Ashland, took them over to Russia, took a lot of photographs of people in Russia and brought them back here. She was that was part of the effort to get the nuclear-free zone going. The mayor, Gordon Medeiros, unlike John here, was dead set against this. He was convinced that we were going to kill the city by passing this ordinance. The businesses would not locate here, tourists would not come, the whole city would fall to pieces if this ordinance was passed. But the city did put it on the ballot in 1982, for the fall of 1982 election. John Stammer was working in that campaign, and he was also attending the Friends meeting. And my first introduction to the idea of Peace House was at a summer meeting in 1982. John, we were meeting at Alan Serena Lindy's house down on Oak Street. And it was a nice summer day, and we were meeting outside, and then we had a potluck after meeting. And John asked that anyone who wanted to meet with him, because he had an idea. He wanted to not have the energy that was involved in the nuclear-free Ashland movement dissipate. He wanted to make sure that after the election that energy continued, and he wanted a permanent peace organization in the city. He asked if the Quakers were willing to sponsor such an organization. A number of us met with him. I was there. B and Bill Newby, some of you will remember B and Bill. They were there. Al Kennedy was there, not only as the host, but because he was deeply involved in peace movement himself. He and I were a team doing draft counseling. And the most important person present, I think, was Marjorie Kellogg. She was there. And out of that meeting, the advice that we gave to John, and Quakers operate by finding unity, and so he was involved in this process as well, of course, was that it shouldn't be a Quaker organization, and that we could get behind it, but it should be basically an ecumenical, faith-based organization with secular participation as well. We suggested you go around to other churches in the valley, and particularly in Ashland, to try to drum up support. And we suggested that when the organization was founded, that it be specifically declared as not associated with anyone, but with it as its own organization.